computer. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rex Bear reporting to you live in a garage down by the river. And we have Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project and Magnetic Reversal News. And today we are going to talk about a recent discovery that could be from a township of a civilization that goes back maybe 1,400 years, maybe 40,000 years from the Aborigines. This is in Australia. And somebody had sent me a link to a video that I can't even find now of so thank you for sending me this, whoever you are. I can't even find you again, so thank you. And it was just like a quick 45-second video where this guy's like, zoom in, zoom out, Google Maps. And I saw all these spirals, and it looked like it said it was in off of a river in Washington. So I was looking all over Washington and I couldn't find it. But what I did find is the coordinates in Australia, folks.
It's WA is Western Australia. That's what he said.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, Washington, D.C., no. Washington State, no. And we found it. It's in Australia, and I'm going to share it with you.
Well, this is beautiful. I don't know anything about this. You brought me on for my interjection. If it's Western Australia, and in fact, if it's Northwestern, that's where some of the oldest Aboriginal pictographs and petroglyphs are, dating to over 40,000 years. It's where the Tinto Mining Corporation has destroyed, in fact, some of these caves that are 40,000 years old. Are you aware of that? Yeah. This Tinto, the Tinto Mining Company is huge. It's a multinational corporation that mines gold. They're all over Alaska, destroying the environment there, but they're also in Western Australia, and they are destroying Aboriginal art that no one knows about. So they own all this land. They go and they find these caves, and they're like, if we tell anyone about this, they'll know, and then they'll make us save it. So they just destroy it accidentally so they can mine gold. Absolutely a travesty.
Yeah, that's horrific. And the fortunate thing is now we're going to actually look at this area. You're going to see that it's there. Everybody's going to know that it's there now. So maybe the powers that be that can protect this site can do something to protect it without them jumping in, because it is off the, well, let me just do a screen share with you right now.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Yeah, let's do it. Before we do that, though, I got to give a huge shout out to my friends over at Boomer Boost. So, folks, click the link specific in the video description box. Get yourself some Boomer Boost and some Gladiator barley. I got my dad taking this Gladiator barley again. He's put on 20 pounds of muscle. He's kicking ass. He's riding 100 miles a week back on his bike. He's almost 70 years old, or 70 years young. And way to go, Dad. So, rock and roll. And I just went up Wolf Creek Pass yesterday. It broke my all-time record by over 5 minutes. Smoked it. Got to the top and back in a little over 2 hours and 20 minutes. It took me 1 hour and 50 to get up, and it took me 15 to get back down to Treasure Mountain, and then another 20 minutes to get to the van. So, folks, we're rocking and rolling.
It was 2 hours, 24 minutes. I saw the display.
Not bad, right?
Yeah. So that's killer. It's killer because it was 26 miles, and half of that's up.
About 8% grade. Yeah, it was like an 8% grade. It's no joke. You get to the top, and this guy came up to me and he goes, "Man, my hat's off to you. I saw you about an hour and a half ago going up that hill, and great job." I said, "Thank you. My hat's off to you." And I was actually wearing a shirt on my head for a hat and a Beavis and Butthead shirt. That was me, folks. So, all right, man, enough about that. I want to share this with you. This is so amazing, and I'm so glad you're here, Diamond, because you were the first person.
Let's take a look. This is going to be fantastic. Oh, that's what I remember.
Here we go. So the Johnston River, as you can see in Australia, and then we're going to zoom in. Here's the river. We're going to go towards the right.
Wait, can you go all the way back out to give the viewers a look at the whole continent of Australia before we come in?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is Western. It's Northwestern Australia. That is where the oldest Aboriginal sites are. So we are on point here. This is beautiful.
Nice. And that was the first thing that came to my mind. Imagine building a civilization of these spirals. Some of the oldest petroglyphs that we know of are spirals, are they not?
They are. The archaic petroglyphs, the oldest petroglyphs in North America, in Nevada, and even out here in near the Four Corners, you're always going to find a 3-whirl, a 5-whirl, meaning how many times it goes around, or a 7-whirl spiral. And these are some of the oldest. They're dated between 13 and, the younger Dryas type spirals.
Here we go. You can start to see to the left here. you'll notice the spirals softly, and then they get to be more prominent in the desert area here. And the quality
Oh,
of some of these
wow.
is phenomenal. They're so circular. Like if you look at how were they able to get such accurate circles such a long time
Well,
ago?
they're not as accurate as you're portraying them. I've seen some of them, and a
Okay.
lot of them are extremely accurate. If you can go to that
Like this
group
one?
of seven, the group of seven, yeah. Some of them are really distant, but there's a few, I would say like 10% of them that are very poorly made.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
I wonder if that's on purpose because this is some kind of a message. Just this is similar. If you zoom out, it's very similar to Gobekli Tepe in the fact that there are literally dozens and dozens of them, right?
Mhm.
So you make one and then you make the next one and then you make the next one. What is the purpose of this insanity of like if we're talking about Gobekli Tepe, making temple after temple after temple, very bizarre.
Yes. And the spirals, people have wondered, do they represent galaxies? Do they represent not necessarily Stargate, but an energy? I had a really cool interview with a gentleman that actually lives in where's he at now? Ireland. And he went to Australia at one point. He found this rock, but it wasn't a rock. It was Aborigines' dreamstone. He took it. This weird experience happened in his house, saw a spiral start to spin. He called a friend of his, which was connected to the Aborigines people. They came and they said, this is ours. You're going to give this back to us. She wasn't going to give it back to him. They said, we will shake the bone at you if you don't give this back to us, which is basically an Aborigines death sentence. So she gave him the stone. And yeah, he said he saw a spiral in his house. Now, if you take him for his word, the spiral that he claims to have saw after he took that home is just like what we're seeing here. And I find it very bizarre.
Now, where are the better spirals? The ones I showed you?
From the photo that I sent you?
No, I found that photo on the internet.
You found it on the internet?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm impressed.
And so they're far better.
Oh, here, look at this one. Look at this guy.
Refined than that spiral.
Ooh, look at this dude. Look.
Yeah. So first of all, what comes into question is the whole concept of these being energy vortices. There are dozens of them all over the place. That makes no sense. What makes more sense is that they're creating these for some type of spiritual purpose. And we don't know what that is. The same thing was happening at Gobekli Tepe. They were making temple after temple. So maybe it's generational. You know, grandpa's generation made their spiral. And depending on how good your agriculture is or how good your hunter gathering is, you can make a bigger, better spiral, or you just can only make a crappy one with 8 guys. You know, it all depends on the weather and the climate. But whatever they're doing here is so important that they're doing it again and again and again, as if it's a warning.
When you say these are this is pretty sharp.
Yeah, that's good. That's sharp.
I mean,
and equidistant. And it's, if you start at the center, 1, 2, 3, this is 4 whorls. This is unlike anything that we see here in the desert Southwest. They're typically 3, 5, or 7.
Yeah. Now I want you to talk to us about that. So let's look around a little bit more and see if because you were breaking it down to the Pleiades and such, and I'll give you like the screen share, but let's just scroll down here and see how many more are there. I'm totally glitching out, dude. Check me out. I'm like Max Headroom.
Yeah, your whole face, it's funny. You're like Max Headroom. Ow, ow.
Every time. Oh,
you do have like 45 tabs open, and a lot of them are videos. So maybe you want to close it.
You think the cache is getting a little full? That might have something.
Yeah, I think your band is being robbed by your cache.
You're probably right. Okay, so my video's off for a minute, and let's just see if we can find some more. So look at how vast this is. I mean, these are all over the place.
Yeah, now we're coming up north here, and they're not all directly on that quote unquote river, the Johnson River.
You're right. Like, look, these are some really nice ones. Look at these guys.
Yeah, this is really equidistant, excellent. This was made quite excellent. And like I was saying to you earlier, if you look at one of the trees in the desert to the right, typically their canopy doesn't get more than further to the right, like where there's bushes.
Yeah.
The big one here on the far right side.
Yeah.
These big trees, probably 30 foot wide. So this spiral is only 150 feet wide. And if we start at the center, it goes out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, exactly 7. Exactly 7 to the outer perimeter whorls which is indicative of all the Anasazi spirals that are determined to be equinoctial calendars. So the only way this could potentially work as an equinoctial calendar is if there was a mountain nearby that would cast a shadow on this valley. And I don't know the topography, and you just invited me in here, but there very well may be a mountain range here to the west.
Let's find out, because
if there's a mountain range to the west and this is a valley, then when the sun sets, it could cast a shadow onto these spirals.
Yeah, I mean,
which is what the Anasazi
were doing. Look right here,
yeah,
to the left.
Yeah, there is definitely a huge rise there.
400 meters, so 1,200 feet approximately. Let's look at this on satellite.
That's higher than the cliffs in my valley, so that's a good perspective. They're only 800 feet high above the ground.
Okay, yeah, right here. Look at this.
Yeah, so they may, at sunset to the west, cast shadows into this valley, and they may actually hit these spirals. That would be fantastic to just go out there and camp in these spirals to see what's going on, especially during an equinox or a solstice. Similar things have been done by researchers, like Uncharted X went out to, I believe, Karan Tepe. Didn't you have him on the show?
Yeah.
Where he showed that shadow on the statuettes in the back? That's older than Göbekli Tepe. So this could be a very significant site. In the fact that the spiral is 7 whorls and it mimics same equinoctial calendars here in the desert Southwest.
The question is, though, are they this accurate in the Southwest as some of the ones we saw here? Because some of these, like you said, some of them look somewhat primitive. And other ones look just
the scale is completely different. I mean, the Anasazi petroglyphs are 10 inches. The biggest one we saw maybe at Mesa Prieta. Remember that really high relief spiral at, oh my goodness. That is the most impressive petroglyph I ever saw. Almost like it's a fake.
Right.
It was so deep and in size, maybe a half or 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was impressive. Now, those are only a foot across. We're talking about something that's 150 foot wide that dozens of people had to make. God knows how they made them, stacking up rocks. Who knows how they made these? You literally have to be on the ground to see how the geoglyph is. We recently drove our butts off all the way up to Idaho to get stung by 14,863,000 mosquitoes to uncover the truth about those petroglyphs. And we still don't know how they made them. We got to go back there.
Yes, that is so remarkable that we were standing on a site that is of incredible archaeological significance, and people are out there taking pictures next to the flowers and they have no idea what is outside.
No, because when you're on ground level, you can't even determine there's a geoglyph there. There's zero chance of that.
And not only that, but we realize there is no way they would have built them at that location with the weather and the water the way that it is, because first of all, there would have been no point. Second of all, they would have been eaten by mosquitoes, and it looks like a canal system out there. So they were capturing water.
Yeah. So it was a drier time, but actually some people commented like the natives had much thicker skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm sure they did, but still, they're not going to be like, well, let's go build it right there.
A horse is smart enough to run from mosquitoes.
Oh my gosh, man. Especially those mosquitoes.
All right. Do you want me to, let me share my, my screen.
Yeah, please.
Am I allowed?
You sure are.
All right. Let me see. Share the screen.
I mean, we got to get out there, man. This could be one of the biggest. This is possibly one of the oldest civilizations. No, this could be the land of Mu.
Well, no, that's actually supposed to be near where Easter Island is.
Oh, okay.
So Easter Island could be part of that.
Lemuria?
What is that? The Maria.
Lemuria is supposed to be pre-Atlantis, more.
Oh, Lemuria.
Yeah.
Yes, Lemuria. No, I think Australia could be Lemuria. That's true.
Okay.
Yes. If not Australia, it would be that Indian supercontinent that's now submerged with the mega cities underwater. Okay. But here is the picture I got from Instagram, where you can see this is clearly on land, not by a river. Very tight. See, the one up in the top left looks pretty crappy, but I don't think that's on accidental. I think it's on purpose. This represents something else than the tight spirals. Because look, you've got a tight spiral, a perfect tight spiral, a perfect spiral with equal spacing, a perfect spiral, a crappy spiral, an even crappier one, and another crappy one. So these three down here represent something different than the tight four spirals. And this spiral and these three are very similar. So I think that these three represent something different than these four. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Reminds me of musical notes.
It could be, and that the more significance is in the center. Now, what I brought up to you is that on quick cursory examination, I was like, that, when I looked at it, I was like, that looks like the Pleiades. And there might be a time in the past when there was a different energetic field in our local environment, in our in the Milky Way galaxy, that allowed something called a Rayet star to emerge from stars that look normal now. A Rayet star is a star with concentric double layer rings that show up outside of its center. So it's literally glowing with, it looks like a star, but then it has 7, 10, 20, 14 prime number amount of rings around it. We recently found some of these using the new telescopes that we have. But this could have been, in my opinion, the Pleiades in a different state in ancient times. So imagine you're an Aboriginal culture and you use the Pleiades for navigation. You use it for storytelling. You use it for spiritual purposes. And because you look up in the night sky and it's so significant, it's a little cluster that everyone notices. It's the Seven Sisters. It's been known in antiquity. But what if some type of a wave of energy came through here, let's say 41,500 years ago, magnetic excursion, when a lot of these Aboriginal pictographs were drawn, and there was huge plasma discharge here on Earth, and the same type of discharges were happening on local stars. The Pleiades itself may have contained these concentric rings like a Rayet star. Now, if the Aboriginals were as smart as I think they were, they wouldn't have depicted this as a spiral. They would have depicted it as concentric rings. So I'm kind of like arguing myself out of the idea that this is the Pleiades. But maybe the Aboriginals used the Pleiades as solstice markers. And that's where the whole idea comes from. And then this was passed on somehow through a global culture over tens of thousands of years, and it landed here in the desert Southwest after the Younger Dryas catastrophe, where there was a global population where everyone had a common science, a common math, which was astrophysical. It was definitely from the stars. So this could be left over from that civilization we're all looking for, and it's in plain sight. Like, it's such a large area. Why isn't this a national park? Why hasn't anyone written a paper on it? Well, they may have. We just haven't found it yet.
You know, Diamond, some of these things to me look so well done that it reminds me almost, and I'm not saying that's what it is. I don't think this is what it is, but it just reminds me of a technology that you would see a modern technology, like etching something into stone or something superimposing itself over it. They just did an amazing job. The way that the knowledge must have been lost, because this is
and if we use Occam's razor here, this makes it more ridiculous. That because what do we know about the Anasazi? Supposedly they were here from 1,000 to 1,200 years ago. Maybe 900 to 1,200 was their heyday. That is the modern era of Anasazi. No one knows who they were. You and I think they're probably Mayan or Aztec or Olmec or a group of those people that came up here when it was good, when the water was flowing and it was better. But if you use Occam's razor and you look at these geoglyphs, they're the same as the petroglyphs dated to the same time. So what that means is there may have been a global population of natives about 1,000 years ago that were all on the same page, and that the modern world as it developed was unaware of what was going on with the more primitive cultures. Now, we have to refer to them as primitive cultures because they didn't build buildings and all that, skyscrapers or any of that stuff. Because in 1200 AD, we were building cathedrals in Europe. Do you know what I'm saying? But what if those same so-called scholars, or it had been burned and lost on purpose, they knew that the entire world was populated by native cultures with advanced science, technology, and math that was unexplainable. They were the megalithic builders. They were the geoglyph makers. They were the petroglyph drawers. They knew this culture was worldwide, and they wanted to erase the idea of it because just to acknowledge that means that the entire earth has been populated and owned by other cultures. And we as colonists need to conquer the world, so they cannot exist in our paradigm. There cannot be a global culture. We have to erase that. The only way for us to conquer the world and take over everything and claim that we own it is to pretend that we don't know anyone's there.
Yeah, it's like, wouldn't it be nice if we had a book of truth? It just was passed on from generation to generation. Like, oh, you want to just look it up? It's on.
I bet there's at least one or two.
Yeah. But we talked about who actually has that book, and it isn't us. We're having to pull pages out of the ether. This could be older than those rock circle cities in South Africa that Tellinger has showed.
No, I doubt it. Those are very haphazard, crappy. There's no geometry. They're garbage. If you look at 1,000 of them, none of them are equidistant or match. And Tellinger's full of crap. The guy he pulls stuff right out of his butt, like elephants flying out of his rear. 10 years ago, he was actually a legitimate scientist. And since then, I think he's been paid off or realized that if he just makes shit up like Mud Fossil University, he gets tons of dollars. So it's all, these guys are working in this sphere to make money. I'm not in here to make money. I know you're trying to raise a family and make a legitimate income, but you're not lying to make money. Not at all. And some people are. It's unfortunate that the majority of people are making up stories to make money, and they are no help to us. Zero.
I realized back in the Nibiru lens flare days that, I'm like, do I want to
go back, man? It's like a rebirth of Nibiru lens flare. Have you noticed that?
Every time the elections hits, Nibiru comes back. I'm telling you, that's the cycle. Every presidential election, Nibiru is going to come back and destroy the world. And the lens flare phenomena. Yeah, dude. But it was the worst.
It's on the solar cycle, right? Almost too. It's like every 11 years too. It peaks and ebbs.
True. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. What I will say is this, though. I am having a heck of a lot more fun uncovering the truth and uncovering these ancient civilizations and uncovering the mythology and connecting it to the astrotheology and so many different aspects of our spirituality, because I feel like I'm learning spiritually as well. It's really exciting, man. It's fun.
Just looking at this and all the work we've done over almost a decade looking at these types of symbols, it's very clear that what we're looking at is a global civilization that could be as recent as 1,200 years ago, that could also go back as far as 40,000 years ago. Because the same pictographs and petroglyphs coming from Western Australia mimic the same pictographs, petroglyphs from all over the world. The same squatter man is found in Sardinia, which is where Atlantis probably was, in the center of the Atlantic Ocean. It's found all over North America. It's found in Eastern North America. It's found in Canada. It's found in South America. It's found in Europe, in India, in Russia. It's found in China, all over Asia, all over India. How is that possible? We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have advanced technology for communication. What we do know is that we were traveling the world in ships. And apparently there had to be an advanced group of people that were globally navigating the world, that were going to these groups and sharing this information with them that was so important that when they learned about it, they never forgot it, ever. And we don't know what it is they're telling them. We need that textbook. It probably was just like it was probably a mini Encyclopedia Britannica about everything important. Now, our Encyclopedia Britannica is like 84 volumes. If you want the new one, it's $2,400 for the 2023 version. 99% of that crap is useless. Like, who cares what TikTok is? That has a section in there. No one will care about that in the future or the past. Who cares what Facebook is? Who cares what a plastic doohickey is or a can opener? Like, we're not going to have electric can openers in the future. This is a stupid idiocracy moment where lazy humanoids need 80 million products that break in 5 seconds that can pump money into the beast that is preventing us from knowing what this shit means, man. It's completely insane.
Well, not only that, let's add in the beast that's ran by the chemical companies that are connected to the food industrial complex, the medical mafia industrial complex, the education system. I mean, it all links back to a select group of families, and it's for a whole other podcast. But with that comes disinformation and what you should have been taught in school, you weren't. And instead you were indoctrinated by those that really love you so much. And I want to show something to you now, Diamond. And I want to get your take on this, because I think this is really going to blow your mind. It blew my mind. So this is Yaldabaoth. Yaldabaoth is the demiurge, and for many years looked at as the chief archon, the chief ruler of the third dimension. And
this is a Greek coin, or is it?
Yeah, it's like a Greek coin. It's a Greek coin.
Okay.
And you'll notice he has the lion head and the snake body. And then you'll notice on the other side is a representation of him as well, but in like in a stick figure form, right? And then I thought to myself, that sure does look a lot like petroglyphs that we have seen in the Four Corners area. And you know what else it sure looks a lot like? It sure looks a lot like this praying mantis, what they have titled a praying mantis,
which is not.
No, it's not, but that's what it's titled. And that's why I said that very clearly, because it isn't a praying mantis. But this is in Iran, and they have estimated it's between 4 and 40,000 years old. And it's very similar. Even if you look at the 3 different sets of limbs, look at how similar this is to Yaldabaoth. And Yaldabaoth, most likely, if Yaldabaoth is the astrotheological aspect of the demiurge, if there was a time when the earth was different and something major took place in the heavens, and then then the people of the earth glorified this being and created religions and mythology and books and scriptures and governments. I just thought to myself, is it one and of the same? Did they see that event and then they labeled that as Yaldabaoth, like ripping the atmosphere off of the earth? Maybe we had a denser atmosphere and now we're looking at the planets and stars differently than we were before. What are your thoughts?
Well, that whole story of coming from the Purple Dawn is well explained in a series of books by a unfortunately deceased author. And he wrote the book Flare Star, Primordial Star, and there's one other. It's escaping me, as well as his name. It'll come to me. And they're like over $300 each, but they explain a period in antiquity where everything had a red or purple glow. And this is part of the Saturn myth. This is independent of it, but it's his series of books where the plasma sheath was ripped away and then there was light. And this would literally explain the biblical account of God exposing the universe and all his works, when in reality, the universe was here all the time and we just couldn't see it. Therein is the ruse of religion. So it's not as if God actually created the heavens and the earth. They explain God as being the ripping off of the veil and exposing it. And so the first gods would be whatever happened to create what we see, the stars in the heavens above. And so if it was a plasma event, and Yaldabaoth was the plasma discharge, that would be your god, or the demiurge, because he just ended the whole thing that was nice. It was always 80 degrees and always warm, and we hung out with the dinosaurs. And now we have sunburn, and we have to put clothes on. It's 90 degrees in the day and 40 degrees at night. It's changed. It's horrible. And people can see us now. The animals, the predators can see us, and they're eating us. And so I could imagine that you would then rever the gods of the past or whatever, or make up these stories. But I literally think that is about a 50% probability of something happening within the last, let's say, 50,000 years.
Okay, cool. Jacob's
I don't
ladder?
think it happened like Velikovsky said, like 3,600 years ago or whatever. It's just too recent for me to believe.
Well, not only that, but I just think there's enough mythology with the Sumerian records that
Yeah.
verifies it is further than that. If you link the capitals on the Sumerian king list and you follow the dates, and then people have tried to say that the years are different, but
Well, yeah, that's true because of the Gregorian calendar change, and there's been several changes.
right.
But still, there is no change in the year. We know the 4 seasons, so we know what a year is. When it gets cold again, it's winter. It's not like we missed a year.
Right. Right.
It could be off a few days. The rotation of the earth could change a few days, and we wouldn't know unless we're counting them and we're following the solstice. Why were these people in the last 12,000 years so concerned with the equinoxes and the solstices? Everyone says it's because of agriculture, and I call bullshit. Anyone knows, like, when it's getting warm from winter, you wake up one day and you're like, yes, it's warm, it's spring. Like, and then even if I live here and I plant when it gets warm, I just lost all my crops 3 days ago. It was frost free for 8 weeks and then it froze. Unless I know when that day is, I'm going to starve. So knowing when the solstice is means nothing when it comes to weather. Weather is very chaotic. So I don't believe these people revered the solstices for planting. That's the dumbest I ever heard. And I wanted to curse there, but I held my tongue. What I think that they cared about was that things happen in these transitory periods that were very significant, that had nothing to do with planting corn seeds or bean seeds. So the solstices and the equinoxes, which are marked by the spirals that go back tens of thousands of years, mark something way more significant than when to plant your corn. That's ridiculous. Modern agriculture is probably 20,000 years old. It's pretty recent. There were far less people in the past. It was way easy to harvest from the earth naturally if you were a permaculturalist. Tons of animals, tons of berries, tons of fruits. You didn't need to do any of that stuff. Something changed where we needed to do that stuff. But the spirals and the solstice warnings, those had been around for tens of thousands of years. They're just now being used for planting. It's like a leftover dumb thing that now we're telling everyone is what the meaning is, when that is not the meaning at all.
Well, it's like a computer. Imagine finding a computer 10,000 years from now that's fully intact, that's connected to a bunch of programs. And at first, you're going to be like, well, this computer crunches numbers. It adds and subtracts numbers. But then you find out it's got a software program for developing graphic design. Then it's got a program for video. Then it's got a
simulation, an Earth simulator on it.
Then there's the Earth simulation. And so it's like you said,
you're like, oh my God, this thing is God.
Look I could even play Super Mario Brothers. And that's a metaphor.
Yeah. So I think that those spirals represent something very significant in our past that then translated down to equinoctial markers for some reason, for practical reasons. We all keep stuff in our future, take stuff along from the past and the future that has practical purposes. We keep using the hammer. You know, we keep modifying the hammer, still a hammer, but we keep using the hammer that we found, the hammer from thousands of years ago. It's still the same damn hammer. It's just a little lighter, a little better weighted. It's still a hammer. And so we're repurposing it. Back in the day, the hammer was to do one thing. It was either to hit someone on the head or to crush a nut. It wasn't to build a house. They didn't even have that concept until a nail came along 20,000 years later, when they were like, oh, we can use a hammer to build a house. Now everyone, if you say hammer, they're like, oh, it's to build a house. But no, that's not where the hammer came from. It was to kill people. The first hammer was to hit you in the head so I could take all your stuff. It was not to build a house. They made houses out of straw and stuff. No hammer needed. The hammer was needed to take all your stuff, however.
Man. Well, okay. I don't know if you still have to get the one thing to go to Australia, but if we don't, let's go, because I will fly to Australia for this, because this looks like it could be a discovery of the ages. Are you interested?
Yeah, it's safe out there. It's completely remote. There's no humans. So if we don't have the right equipment and we're not properly prepared, we'll die in about 36 to 48 hours. If we
Perfect.
go in the summer, it's 128 degrees there. So
Even better.
we really need to do proper preparation to make it out to that portion of Western Australia and not be eaten by 128 poisonous snakes, 13 poisonous spiders, 14 poisonous scorpions, 128 poisonous insects, and every other thing that wants to eat us, like dingoes, bats, and kangaroos that'll beat us up and things like that. This is a very unhospitable area. And if I actually gave you the details, you would probably opt out.
I wouldn't opt out. You would make me want to. You just.
Yeah,
made me
it
want
would
to
probably
more.
take 13 days to get to these places, and you can't camp for 2 days. So I don't know how you do it. There's no hotels on the way there. In other words, you wouldn't shower. You'd have to eat nuts and shit in a bag for weeks, in and out. Think about it.
Can I just shit in the woods instead? We're going to be out.
There aren't any woods. It's the desert. It's all open. So I get to see you. You'd have to walk like 6 miles to be out of view. I mean, you have to walk a half mile here just to take a pee.
Whatever, man.
I'm just busting your balls.
Oh shit.
But here, let me talk about some more cool stuff. Do you know about the Marie Man before we go?
Vaguely, the guy with the big, yeah,
The big guy in the Australian desert.
yeah, a little bit.
Let me share the screen. This guy, have you seen that guy?
Oh yeah.
Can you? Yeah. So here's the cool thing about this guy and this guy is that, let me see. There it is. All right. You see that comparison picture?
Yeah.
There's one other compare. Is that not there? Okay. So you see two pictures of Marie Man. Now here's the funny thing. Here's the one I want to show you. What do you notice there?
Zeus.
Okay. The left image is from the 27th of May, 1998 from space.
Oh.
The right image is from the 12th of June, 1998. So within 3 weeks, the largest geoglyph on Earth appeared.
Huh. Hoax.
Because it's a hoax.
That's a great
It's
hoax.
not a hoax. It's a hoax. It's an artist that made this art in the desert and he didn't tell anyone.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to hoax anybody. He was making art that he wasn't going to tell anyone about so that it would only be discovered from space.
And he did a great job. And I could see how there's going to be, I'm sure, 1 million view posts out there saying, look, aliens made
It's
this
the
geoglyph.
largest it's the largest artist installation on Earth ever
That's really
attempted.
cool. That's
And it
really
was
cool.
done secretly and he didn't tell anyone and everyone thought it was aliens. So that alone is a really good example of just what we think is aliens is people.
It was a dude that saw something on the internet and he's like, oh, I mean, seriously, it's brilliant and way to go, Diamond. Thank you for showing us this. That puts things into perspective. And
yeah, you can see him here. Look at him. He's contemplating it on a little dirt field in front of his apartment building. He's like, I can do this. I can make it 10 miles long and 2 miles wide. I just need a Jeep and a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes me think to myself, well, maybe certain experiences where we see these geoglyphs. Oh, and by the way, that Peru geoglyph that you showed that had the same spiral as the tell. Did you notice that?
No.
Yeah, like scroll down.
Oh, here there's geoglyphs in my thingies or something.
You had one from Peru pull up at the bottom.
All right, it's probably down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spiral tail monkey.
There it is. Same spiral, but that isn't even as good. That isn't even as good as the ones we were.
No, that's terrible. And these are, what's the age of the Nazca lines?
Like
Like
3,000 years old.
Yeah, 3,000. So here, let's go quick jump. Can you see this? The Boha geoglyphs?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so this is in the Indian desert. They found a similar thing to that spiral monkey. They found these wiggly lines?
Yeah.
Wiggly lines. Can you not see that? You're
No, froze up.
and you're muted.
Yeah, you froze up.
Okay. So they found these huge squiggly lines in the desert of India, the desert of Rajasthan. Several sites were found located around the city of Joslimer, and they located geometrical lines resembling huge geoglyphs. Well, these were determined to be a hoax, or like people on four-wheelers just charring up the platform. So it's important to know what you're looking at. These, the Nazca lines clearly are not a hoax, but what was the purpose of them drawing a spider monkey at this scale? Does that make any sense to you?
The only thing I can think of is they either saw something in the heavens, so they were attempting to mimic it, or it is ritual of some type, or you could go down the route of thinking that, you've got, now we're going to go down the science fiction route where you've got people flying around and they're like, oh, there's the city.
I don't think it's flying around. None of this is aliens. None of it's flying around. I think that at some point in antiquity, we all determined there was a God. And I think it has to do with the cataclysm, 12:9, where something happened. Everyone died. Stuff in the sky was glowing. We saw things, and it affected our human consciousness and our DNA in such a way that we said, there is a God. There is a God, and it's not us. And he wants us dead. And then they wrote all those books saying God wants us dead unless we're nice, which is all based on human fear. It's not based on reality. It was simply a cosmic catastrophe that our psyche could not comprehend. We made up stories, and now we were subservient. So generation after generation after generation warned everyone about what happened. Do you remember what happened back then when the whole earth lit on fire and we all died? We want that. And so we're all good, and the earth doesn't light on fire, and we get crops and everything's good. So what we need to do is draw a big picture of a spider monkey to make God happy. We need to draw, and you guys go out and draw whatever you think will make God happy, and we'll all do this. Is our purpose. So I think that's kind of what's going on here. It is spiritual. It's because everything's going good, and they wonder why. And they're like, well, since we started doing these paintings in the desert, everything's gone good. Oh, we should better make more of them. And so I think that's it. I mean, that's the simplest idea I can come up with. I don't think it's more bizarre than that. I mean, it's a very simple idea. You go from, just hanging around on earth, living life the way you're doing it, building stuff, megalithic, and everything's good. And then the whole earth gets destroyed. And you're like, why did that happen? We must have been bad. There must be this evil guy up there that wants us to kill us. All right, let's just be nice now for a while. So I mean, that's, I think, how all religion started. It is simplistic.
But I saw on the internet about aliens, and I asked somebody on the internet, and they said it was aliens. So I'm just saying, could be real.
It's alien.
All right, man. No, this is great. Thank you so much. And I have to say, I agree with you on so many points. We're definitely on the same page, and there's a couple pages that are, but you know what, man, if every page was the same, I don't think we'd be having nearly as much fun. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here with us. And I'm having a tough time arguing with pretty much anything Diamond said. So if you disagree, I'd love to hear it in the comment section. Be respectful, because it's always nice to have discourse, but let's just have a conversation about it. And wow, man. Awesome, dude. Much love to you. And I would be willing to go out in the desert for 12 days, bro.
Yeah. And I have people in Leah's family has wineries in Australia. So we have places to stay. That could be our jumping off point. I got tons of offers for people in Western Australia to take me to Aboriginal caves. So we've got guides. So we could do it. We just need the time and the wherewithal. I mean, it's a serious undertaking.
We're going to need some money. I mean, we need money for this.
Yeah, it's like $5,000 round trip just to get there.
I will eat top ramen. I'd even be willing to sell some artwork and some gear to put this together. So folks, I've got a really nice iCamper for sale. I'll put that on the market for this trip, man. We'll make it happen. Absolutely. This will be fun. All right, man. Diamond, much love to you, brother, and keep being the change you want to see.
Yeah.
Nanny.